Kamala Harris riding a wave of newfound optimism in the Democratic Party. Tonight, in her first rally in Milwaukee, she promised there was no going back. We will bring you the highlights of that speech and the reaction to it. Also tonight, Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in Washington ahead of his speech tomorrow to the US Congress. The Vice President will meet with the Israeli Prime Minister, but has informed the Senate she will not preside over the joint session. In his first public address since the election, Emmanuel Macron has called for a political truce as Paris prepares to open the Olympic Games. And on a not entirely dissimilar theme, the Conservative Party is looking for someone to unify their party. The nominations to be leader open tomorrow. We'll take a look at the long list of hopefuls. Good evening. Perhaps it is a sign of how far Democrats had slipped this past month that Kamala Harris opted for Milwaukee as the city in which to launch her presidential campaign. Wisconsin voted for Biden 4 years ago. Since June, polls suggested he's moving towards Trump. But that was before the extraordinary events of the past 48 hours. In record time, Harris has secured the support of enough Democratic delegates to become the party's nominee. She now has the endorsement of the two top Democrats on Capitol Hill, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, all the Democratic governors, 40 Democratic senators and the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. They have had their best 24 hours of grassroots fundraising of any campaign in history. Over $100 million donated in just 2 days, nearly as much as Joe Biden raised in the entirety of June. A campaign, says Kamala Harris, for the middle classes of America.
Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law? Or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? And here's the beauty of this moment. We each have the power to answer that question. The power is with the people. We each have the power to answer that question. And in the next 105 days, then we have work to do. We have doors to knock on, we have phone calls to make, we have voters to register, and we have an election to win.
Kamala Harris officially kicking off her campaign for president. Joining me this half hour to discuss it all, Susan Platt, former Chief of Staff to President Joe Biden, and also with us Angela Rye, head of political advocacy firm Impact Strategies. She was formerly the director of the Congressional Black Caucus. Welcome to you both. It's lovely to have you on the programme. Let me start with you, Angela Rye. Goodness me, you could feel the excitement, almost relief, I think, in Wisconsin, a real energy, I think, to that first appearance.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I cannot use a better word than relief. I was relieved when Joe Biden announced that he thought it would be in the best interest of the country, the party, and for himself, frankly, to step aside and clear the way for Kamala Harris. And I was relieved that he honored his commitment to her that he made 4 years ago, right, to ensure that she would have the opportunity to carry on the legacy of the party and what would be best for the battle of the soul of the nation, as he named his campaign in 2020. And so to see him step aside and I think do it in such a marvelous way, I think cements Joe Biden's legacy as the type of leader he wants to be remembered by. There was a lot of pushback about who Joe Biden was in the late 80s and early 90s. We heard it over and over again in 2020. And the fulfillment of what he wanted to become, the transformation you saw in real time, the ways in which he pushed back against police immunity when Donald Trump is touting immunity for police and, of course, for himself, I think demonstrates the kind of leadership he wants to be remembered by. And of course, there's the rest of this term to be fulfilled, and he can continue on that legacy there. Yeah. For Kamala Harris to say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm absolutely going to secure this nomination to raise the type of money she raised in a 12-hour and then 24-hour period from small donors was reminiscent of what so many of us felt in 2008 with President Obama. I think the difference here is that then we could concentrate on hope and change and the optimism that came along with that ticket. Now we've got to focus on winning a political war. This is not your run-of-the-mill campaign. This is a campaign not just for the soul of America, but it truly is a war for protecting and preserving the type of democracy that was enshrined in those documents that this country was founded upon, that left so many of us.
No going back was the message today. Susan Platt, I know you formerly worked for Joe Biden, but the split screen moment there of him on his way back from Delaware, having recovered from COVID, and what we saw there in Wisconsin really does speak to that relief, I think, that Angela is talking about. There's just a whole different feel around the campaign. That's no detriment to Joe Biden, but she's younger, she's energized. It was a spirited first speech.
Well, no doubt the last few weeks have been tumultuous, to say the least, for everyone in our country, and for Joe Biden personally, and for those of us who love him and care about him and have worked for him. But I just got done watching Kamala Harris give a barn burner of a speech that I know that most of Democrats believe in helping the middle class, moving forward, passing the torch, which Joe Biden has so gracefully done. He will be, and he is a transformational president, and he will lay out for us tomorrow night, which I can't wait to see him on what he intends to do to complete his term, to pass the torch to Kamala Harris. And, you know, it's about, as Kamala Harris said, she knows Donald Trump's type. She's prosecuted predators, fraudsters, and cheaters. And do we really want to go back to the chaos of those years, or do we want to go forward into the future for more freedoms and expanding opportunities for more of us? And I think we'll see. It's going to be a close election, but I do see that I think we're going to be victorious. I haven't felt this kind of energy in our party in a long time.
Susan, I do want to talk about the moment yesterday in Wilmington. It was notable that Joe Biden called into the campaign headquarters, and from what he said in that exchange, it is clear that he intends to campaign alongside her. Have a listen.
They truly are like family to us, and we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. Oh.
Susan, clearly the Republicans are going to come after her on Joe Biden's record. They're going to try and attach her to his record, and particularly his record on the border and immigration. How much does she need to plough her own furrow away from the president, or would you advise that she stands alongside him on this campaign?
Wasn't that a wonderful moment where you see the care and the consideration that these two, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, have for each other? And to talk about the way Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have gone after her personally, you talk about the issue of the border. There was a deal that was worked out with the White House, with Kamala Harris and the leadership in the House, both Democrats and Republicans, where Donald Trump killed the deal. Why? Not because he wanted to solve a problem, because he wanted to work, he wanted to campaign on it. It was a political venture. And I do think that we have the ability to solve these things. They can go ahead and try to hit Kamala, and they're going to hit on her with personal attacks, which is what they've been doing. But go ahead. As a prosecutor, she'll do one hell of a job prosecuting our case against them.
Angela, we've heard in the last few minutes that Donald Trump does want to debate Kamala Harris. In fact, he said he would like to debate her more than once. That's interesting. I mean, we don't know the state of the polls yet. If it was a tight race, I can see the wisdom from former President Trump's perspective, but it might be dangerous to take on a former prosecutor in that sort of setting.
Oh, it absolutely will be dangerous. And as Joe Biden said in his initial challenge to Donald Trump, when he wanted to debate him, he said, "Make my day, pal." And boy, will it make all of our days to see Donald Trump go up against someone who probably has the most solid closing argument for why this man should never see the inside of the Oval Office again. And I would venture to say that this isn't just something that is a desire of at least half of the American people, probably closer to a majority, but a lot of folks overseas want to see the same thing. a lot of misinformation out here about what Donald Trump actually did in his 4-year term. A lot of misinformation about what he did as the head of the Trump organization. A lot of misinformation
Do you feel
about
that's not
how
been,
he ran his campaign.
to coin the phrase, do you feel that's not been properly prosecuted, and certainly wasn't prosecuted in that first debate that Joe Biden took part in?
Well, certainly, but there also has been a trial where he was found guilty, and so at least some part of it was prosecuted. But I think that it would be remarkable to see someone stand toe-to-toe with Donald Trump and take him on all 88 indictments, the rest of the things that he has not been prosecuted for, the things that the Supreme Court said he can't be prosecuted for, and put that record before the American people, who will, in this instance, be a jury of his peers, and have them make a decision about whether his guilt or innocence should provide an opportunity for him to serve in the White House.
Okay.